What's going on, family? And welcome back to Israel's Movie Reviews. And today we're going to be discussing one of my favorite films ever, top 3 ever to grace the silver screen. And I thought it was going to be a good touch because today here in New York, it is thundering. And every time it rains, I always think about the line in the film that I'm about to speak about. He says, "Can't rain every day." And we're going to be speaking about The Crow, 1994 film, starring the late Brandon Lee. This film, I've been wanting to talk about for a very long time because it's, for me, it's one of those, righteous retribution kind of redemption films. It's a very emotional ride because I remember vividly in the movie theater as a young kid watching this film with my father and stepmother and brothers and sisters in the movies. My brothers in the movies. My sister wasn't even born yet. And it's one of those films that contains the one ingredient that all revenge movies should have, and that's true to a revenge film, and that's emotion, sorrow, love, laughter, anger. There's so many emotions thrown into this film from start to finish. And this film is immensely captivating. Not only on a very eccentric level, on a personal level, but a very stylistic level also. The plot on paper sounds like the usual revenge film that audience sometimes could get into, but they're very mistaken with this film. This film was very powerful, not only because the main character in the film died in real life, but also because it was Brandon Lee's last performance, and this was a mesmerizing performance from him. I think this film was definitely going to catapult him to superstardom. Definitely. Prior to this film, I saw Rapid Fire. I saw there was a film called, I think, Showdown Little Tokyo with Brandon Lee and Dolph Lundgren. And he just had this charisma about him. And you knew that he was going to go far. And when I heard the news that he passed making the film, through, close friends and family, because they were so invested in this film, it was sad. The film wasn't even almost finished. He didn't get to finish the film. They had to, do a lot of things in the background to make sure this film was finished, and eventually got permission. And this is one amazing film. Not only is Brandon Lee the man in this film, it's mesmerizing. It's one of those films that's just visually appealing, extremely well made, with amazing performances all around. It wasn't just Brandon, even though he's the soul of the film. The score of this film, my God, it fits so well. There's plenty of action to go around as well. I think Michael Wincott is and will always be one of the best films in cinema history, man. He's very menacing, especially with that voice as the main villain, top dollar, and he was, I think, perfect for the part. The flashbacks in the film is what to me stood out the most, because the film for the most part is kind of black and white, which I thought was unique because of the comics from James O'Barr. This was based on a comic book that was created by this man named James O'Barr, who had an unfortunate, situation with his loved one, and he set out and basically, created this. And the flashbacks, going back to the flashbacks, to me they were cool because the majority of the film is in black and white, but the flashbacks were color, and I thought that was a beautiful contrast. You know what I mean? And I wish that we could have saw a little bit of Eric's fiancée, Shelley's character, a little more. We do get her in flashback scenes, but we don't get really enough, I feel, of her to get a good feeling of how was she as a character, as a fiance. You do kind of get from another character in the film, obviously. Um, the young girl that she used to take care of. But I just wish we would have got a little more of her, obviously. The directing of the film is top notch, man, outstanding. I think Alex Proyas does an outstanding job. You know, he creates these lots of images and dark set pieces and atmosphere. You know, they use great use of the rain, cool visuals, and they keep a very, very good pace in this film. The action was well done. Come on, you have, Bruce Lee's son here, and it's very engrossing from the moment the movie starts to the end. The film is violent, but doesn't show all that blood. You know what I mean? It's not really a bloody film. You know, we get several knives to the chest, we get a knife in the hand, we get a gunshot through a hand, lots of gunshot wounds, some blood, but not a lot, like I mentioned. We get 2 slashings, a slit throat. There's just some cool things, man. You know what I mean? You get a sword through a neck. You get the crow, the actual crow, the bird who, takes these girls' eyes out. The acting in this film, to me, was wonderful. Brandon Lee gives an Oscar-worthy performance here. He's completely just that character of Eric Draven, man, will just be iconic for the history of time. He's beautiful, he's creepy, he kicks ass, and he just looks so cool. He's once in a generation, and it's sad that he didn't live up to his potential because he was taken from us so young. But he will always be remembered. And what happened to him obviously was a tragedy. We all know the story. He was shot accidentally, and the rest is history. Michael Massey, the one that shot him in the film, he didn't work for almost a year because they killed him so much. But the basic premise of the film is, the Crow, which is Eric Draven, stars as this rock star, who's precisely murdered, and 1 year later, he returns from the grave to take revenge on these vicious criminals responsible for raping and killing both he and his fiancée. And, it was an untimely demise. When you start to pick apart the film, it's a basic plot, right, for this supernatural thriller. And when you really think about it, it's rather simplistic, but it was delivered in such a way where it just gives you this genuine suspense, this poetic, charged screenplay with dark romanticism, terrific cast, like I mentioned, and it's extremely stylish. The direction of Alex Proyas, man, decided to take this film was unforgettable. Proyas, he was a prolific music video director, nails the comic books aesthetic to a T, delivering to me a stream of impressive visuals, to me with grandiose sweeping cinematography. I'm sorry, my voice is leaving me. But I think the lighting of the film, I think, was stunning. The set design, it was supposed to be Detroit, and it has this gothic neo-noir atmosphere, and it's set to a cool alternative kind of rock soundtrack, which I thought was fantastic. Just plain and simple. And one of my favorite parts of the film is actually the lines that Eric Draven says. A lot of his lines are just haunting. You know what I mean? Not only you get the son of martial arts legend Bruce Lee, may he rest in peace, gives this charismatic central performance, and will most likely have a major star right now of his own if he was still alive, I feel, because his life was tragically, cut short what's more tragic too is the haunting experiences when it came to not only this film but the sequels to this. None of the movies lived up to this one, and I thought that was a telling sign of, you know, what this film did. You know what I mean? To me, at first glance, the film just did so much for us. You know what I mean? This is a film I think I've seen over 100 times. You know, and it just separates. I think this is the top of, when it comes to revenge films, this is the top. This is the top. Especially, like I said before, his lines in the film is, you know, it can't rain every day, he tells her. You know what I mean? Mother is basically, he says in the film, mother is on the lips of children is basically for God. It's just a lot of stuff. Suddenly, I heard a tapping of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. It's creepy the way he delivers these lines, you know what I mean? And I'm no goth, and I've never, you know what I mean, fully understood James O'Barr's, because I never really seen his interviews, and it might be a controversial thing to say, but I think, you know, The Crow is obviously I think it's a masterpiece. I think it's one of the most just well-balanced films of all time. You know what I mean? To me, it's up there with, people might think I'm crazy, but I think it's up there with Pulp Fiction, Shawshank Redemption. I think it's one of the most tragic things about this character was obviously he died, but it might sound crazy, but I think he had to die. I think, like, this was the movie that was going to separate him from everybody else. And if he would have kept going, I'm sure there probably would have been a sequel to this movie with him in it. Although I don't see how they would have did that the way this was a one and done. I don't think they should have had sequels. And the reason I'm doing this review also is because he has such an iconic performance as the Crow, Eric Draven, that will live on for eternity, that I don't know why they were making the film. And if, you know, you didn't hear, they were making the film with Bill Skarsgård, who's a tremendous actor in his own right also. But sometimes the best comic books necessarily don't make that film translation. But this one did. You know, The Crow was an excellent tragic film made, and they stemmed from real life tragedies, you know, surrounding the film. Not only he died, but James O'Barr, you know, had a true love that died in real life. That the only thing that stemmed from that was the creation of this character. The story is basically James O'Barr's version of what he went through. And man, this was an incredible action thriller. You know, I just saw the movie the other day. It's one of those movies where every time it rains, I have to put it on. This movie's just a gem. You know, it's a religious film in my point of view. You know, these tragic events that make the film all more haunting. There's just so many things that happen in this film that happen. So if you've been living under a rock for the last 30 years or so, go check out this film. You know what I mean? I'll leave you one more line that haunts me, that I love this movie for, and he says, they're all dead, but they just don't know it yet. That's one of the best scenes in the movie. What more can I say? God bless Brandon Lee, and go check out The Crow. Top 3 films of all time in my point of view. Give this movie, you already know what I'm giving this movie, 10 out of 10. To the next one.